Hello, everybody. It is the new year. It is 2026 currently. And with that, new Monster Hunter information, hopefully. We're getting Arc Tempered Arkfeld in February. Hopefully later down the year, maybe somewhere halfway through 2026, maybe possibly we'll get some information on the DLC, the paid Master Pack DLC, or whatever you may call it. The expansion to Wilds. Basically, this video started because I saw a video, and this guy said he specifically said that he wanted 20 monsters in the Wilds expansion. He said 5 for each area, and I believe he said he wanted 1 Elder Dragon. I don't know if that's my idea or his. You can check out his channel. Just basically search up 20 monsters I want in Wilds expansion or something along those lines. Right, you'll find it. So, rules before we start. How it'll work. These are 40 monsters I want to come back. Technically 45. If you count the end, there's 3 special guests. And one of the special guests has 3 variants. Obviously, you can probably tell who that is, but if they bring back just 1 variant, that would be cool. But if they brought back all 3, like how 2 of them, the 2 are usually, or at least I know the 1 has never had a game by himself, so it would be cool to have him have his own game, possibly having 1 different variant in this game, but that's for later. Right, so these are technically 45 monsters I want to come back to Wilds, and Wyveria, just a warning, has all of the Wyverian ones. All of the Wyverian monsters are all Guardians, and they're also all of them but the Elder Dragon, which is what I'm going to do for each of these areas. There's going to be 8 monsters in each area. 7 of them are going to be regular monsters I would like to come back. I would think would be cool to come back. 1 is going to be an Elder Dragon that I think would suit the area best, both lore-wise and possibly, other stuff like that. But the Wyveria has its Elder Dragon is just a regular Elder Dragon, since Elder Dragons don't have subspecies; they only have variants, and I believe deviants maybe. I just know that basically Wyveria has 7 Guardian subspecies monsters, similar to that of Ebony Odogaron and Fulgur Anjanath, how they got Guardian forms, but regular Anjanath and regular Ebony did not, or regular Odogaron did not. That's how that is going to work. Basically, that's all you need to know. There is special guests. There are 5 of them. With Wild, this would bring Wild's monster count up to 78, the same as Rise. Now, Rise had 46 base monsters and I believe 32 expansion monsters, while World had 34 base monsters and added on, I'm not entirely sure, I think it's 71 monsters. So, you can do the math on that one, you can search it up too. But basically, Wilds is going to be very, very close to Rise in the fact of the monster count total. Now, if we remove 2 forms of one of the special guests, and we don't count Guardian Arkfeld, since you can't fight him multiple times, it would be 76 monsters. Now, if we do count Guardian Arkfeld, that would bring the total count of Wilds monsters up to 34, with all 4 title updates, which would keep us at the monster count of World, and would also raise our total to be 1 higher than Rise, which would be 79 monsters in total. After all that explaining, let's get straight into it. So the Windward Plains, I think we could have these 7 monsters. Now, it is a little difficult finding some of these monsters, just letting you know. But let's start off with the Windward Plains. Glavenus. I think bringing back the Fated 4 would be pretty cool. Obviously, Gammoth, I don't think it's returning unless we get some kind of specific mechanic or some sort of different area. But as long as I feel like all three of the main ones, aside from Gammoth, could possibly come back, and it would be pretty cool to see him. So, and Glavenus has been seen in World, but has not been seen in Rise. It'd be a nice, 1 game break between World and Wilds. Rise was their break, so it'd be pretty cool to see him. Now, Monoblos, up next, has had a really long break. I don't think we've seen him for a very good while. I don't think he was in GU. He was a while ago. I think he would work really cool. And I'm just gonna let people know, Diablos is not on the Windward playing list. I'm sorry. Diablos is just not a monster I would want to come back if Monoblos is coming back, because then he would steal all the light from Monoblos again. Next up is Plesioth. There are, now, before people get mad, yes, this list is going to have a lot of monsters that people disagree with and hate. Plesioth, I think if they rework him and stuff, he could be a really fun monster to fight, along with the fact that, the Oasis is there, areas they can hydrate, along with having certain mechanics in the Windward Plains. Now, next one is Cephadrome. Again, another monster a lot of people hate. I think, again, if they rework him, he would be the perfect monster in Wilds. Obviously, there's the Oasis, which we're used to seeing him near, in at least GU for me. I've seen Cephadrome there. Next up is Gendrome. Again, this list, everybody's going to hate it. Gendrome, I think he would work as one of the pack monsters. He'd be pretty cool. You're going to see that a lot in this video. There are a lot of pack monsters in this list. So basically, Gendrome would probably be, an equal to Doshagma in a way of paralysis. Using his paralysis against him. Now, if we move on to Hypnocatrice, most people would say he should go in the Scarlet Forest, but I disagree. Hypnocatrice could have, a nest or something along those lines higher up somewhere in the Windward Plains. It would be pretty cool to see him there. Next up is Nibblesnarf. Nibblesnarf is a goofball. I think he would be perfect to come back. Balahara and him could have a pretty cool turf war, along with them bringing back the him eating barrel bomb mechanic. That would be pretty cool. Now, this region's Elder Dragon, I think, should be Valstrax. Now, this is because of the fact that Valstrax, at least the Crimson Glow variant, have been known to fly over the desert and Rise and turn into Crimson Glows because of their Dragon Organ going haywire. I think Valstrax being near deserts and working in deserts is just something that works, right? I think he would be cool there. I think him lifting off and blowing sand everywhere, that would be a really cool, I know a lot of people would freak out because their PCs probably couldn't handle that, but a ton of particle effects with him blasting off and him landing, I think would be awesome. Next up, we're moving on to a new area. This is the Scarlet Forest. Again, me wanting to reunite the Fated Four because I thought they were pretty cool. Astalos is first. I think him coming to the Scarlet Forest, they could kind of work him in a way how they did with Lagiacrus with his lightning and stuff like that. If it does connect with water, it would shoot out and make the lightning either stronger or maybe give it a variant type of move where if it hits the water, it does a certain type of explosion or something along the lines of that. I think would be really cool. We also, I believe we see some of his bugs around. That'd be pretty cool, seeing some of the bugs he eats. Maybe he could possibly eat them now. I know he was just in Rise, but Wilds, it would be cool to see an overworked Astalos, because Rise is kind of less into detail and more into fighting and combat, which is fine. I found it pretty cool. I liked Rise, but I think World and Wilds are better, right, in the design department. Same thing with Espinas, the next monster on the list. I think Espinas would work very well in Scarlet Forest, just out of the fact that, who knows, maybe it could be There could be a quest, a 3-way quest where you have to fight Lagiacrus, Rathalos, and Espinas, the 3 biggest rivals in the series. Espinas rivals Rathalos, Lagiacrus rivals Rathalos, Rathalos rivals all 3, or all 2. That would be really cool to see a whole turf war with them. Next up, Yangaruga. I think having Yankutku there and having, I don't know, maybe, how Yangaruga, some people have theorized, is, like a fusion between Rathian and Yankutku. I think it would be pretty cool to have him there, along with him being kind of a bully species towards Yankutku. Him maybe leading a pack of Yankutku or, breaking up a pack of Yankutku would be pretty cool. Next up is Velocidrome. I might as well just do these 2 together, Velocidrome and Great Macau. These 2 are very good monsters in the fact of pack-wise. They could work maybe against each other or simultaneously together to take down bigger monsters. Maybe Velocidrome and Great Macau could work together as a team or have a really cool turf war where all of their raptors go at it. And plus, Great Macau, I feel like if they're going to add one of the 2, they should add Great Macau, because generally, he's one of the cooler monsters, right? I've had trouble with him in GU, and I think it would be really cool to overhaul some of his moves and his design and stuff in Wilds. Same thing with Velocidrome, although Velocidrome didn't give me that hard of a time. Next up is Malfestio. I think the excess amounts of pollen and stuff in the Scarlet Forest could, mix with Malfestio's pollens and possibly make a really cool mix of, different moves. Now, do I want the confusion back? Absolutely not. Yes, I thought it was an awesome mechanic, but people would probably quit the game if they knew Malfestio flips all their controls for a short period of time. But I do think he would be pretty awesome in Scarlet Forest. Next up is Duramboros in the Scarlet Forest. Now, Duramboros is a pretty cool monster. I like his whole spinning thing, and I think if we could work with the trees a little bit in the area, I think it would be really cool if he could break smaller trees down, slam into them and stuff when he does his ballerina spin. I think that'd be really cool. I think he would just work, right? Next up, the Elder of the Scarlet Forest, Yamasukami. Now, this would be kind of a similar thing to Duramboros, where Yamasukami, maybe in the story quest or something along the lines of that, we find this weird tree, small forest that shouldn't be there, like it's in the middle of the water or something. We go out to explore it, and all of a sudden it lifts off, it starts floating in the sky, and starts maybe sucking up trees or ripping out trees in the Scarlet Forest. And we find out it's a Yamasukami, and we fight it. That'd be pretty cool. I think that would work very well. I think I'm starting to realize that a lot of these monsters, at least the elders of each area, are all kind of flying. I think, it's one area, which is Wyveria, where they don't fly. There's not one that... Or not Wyveria, the Basin. None of them fly in. Speaking of the Basin, let's roll on right up. The Basin would have its first monster, which I chose to be Basarios. I think it's quite overdue that that Basarios and Gravios, the iconic duo, have a, get together. Maybe a Gravios could lead 2, maybe 3 Basarios around, and it would work in the Doshagama way, where there's the alpha being the Gravios and the followers being Basarios. I think that would be a really cool mechanic. Another pack monster, Agnaktor, being next. I think the Rocktor and the Agnaktor are really cool. Now, Rise confused me with a good amount of these monsters because Rocktor were there, but Agnaktor was not there. I believe those little bugs, the little bugs in the desert, I forget their names, they could possibly be the children of Atakal. That would be pretty cool to see Atakal and come and maybe pick up some Fulgurite in the desert or whatever. I'm not saying he's on the list, but I'm saying that would be pretty cool. But back onto Agnactor. Sorry for stealing so light with Attack Call. So Agnactor, I think, is a good fit because of the fact that I feel like he could have himself be covered in maybe, maybe have himself be covered in oil for most of the time, but in the Fire Spring, he gets covered in that, magma obsidian. I think that would be pretty cool. Next up is Rachna Kadaki. I think I mainly added her onto the list because of the fact that we don't necessarily have a good amount of monsters in the basin that are bugs, right? We have, I think Nursilla is there, like a little bit at the time, but I think Rachna Kadaki would be awesome coming back. I think it was a very well-designed monster. I think it could definitely work in the basin. When Fire Spring happens, maybe it comes up higher, and like where Rathalos is, and maybe where monsters like Ajarkon are found up higher in the higher levels where that bull is. I think it would be cool for Rachno to be somewhere up there. But speaking of bull, I think we need to have Lavasioth back again. Some of these monsters are where, like, I added them on the list where they were in World, but they weren't in Rise, and they came back, and they could come back to Wilds, which would be cool. A skip. How Wilds is the spiritual successor to World, maybe having a few monsters of the same accord there. But yeah, Lavasioth would be a cool addition. I would like to see him. I know the Piscean Wyverns are mainly, they're underground, but I think Plesioth and Lavasioth in Wilds would be pretty cool in the fact of, like, Plesioth and Lavasioth wouldn't go underground, right? Like, Plesioth being in the desert and only being in the Oasis would be cool, and, like, the streams and stuff would be cool. It would be pretty awesome to be there. But it wouldn't be able to go underground. So its fight would be more fair on our end. As where Lagiacrus, again, its fight is more fair on our end now, this time, coming around. Compared to its tri-game where it was kind of a fair fight on both ends, where you would fight it in the water and it would come out of the water, you trick it into coming out of the water, then it's more fair on your side, right? I think it would be cooler to have these kind of more unfair monsters, in my opinion. I think Plesioth, if they do manage to keep his hitbox being so bad and stuff, I think it would still be quite fair to fight him without him going underwater. Same thing with Lavasioth, if they keep his annoying armor, I think it would be quite beneficial to be able to fight him just out of there. Maybe him covered in oil, that'd be cool. Maybe a subspecies for these guys. But Monster Hunter has not been known, at least from the games I've played, they don't really add a subspecies of monster that isn't already in the game. Like with Diablos and then Black Diablos. I know it's like more of a variant, but you get what I'm saying. Like Azure Rathalos, right? Like the Wraths, and I have no doubt that they're going to bring back subspecies of monsters, like definitely the Wraths. The Wraths are coming, Shagger is coming, like there are multiple monsters we guaranteed are going to see in Wilds, because you don't add one without adding the other. Usually. Obviously we've seen that happen with Gravios and Basarios and Monobolus and Diablos. We've seen it happen with monsters like that. But after all that yapping, we move on to Uragaan. Uragaan, he'd be pretty cool to have, especially with the fact of Uragaan being able to roll down those tunnels we walk through would be pretty cool. It'd also be quite annoying probably, but you get what I'm saying. It'd be pretty cool. Also, the oil and the ore, I think, would be pretty awesome to have together, right? Next up is Shogun Sientar. I think they should add him, one, because, yes, he's been in volcanic areas before, and two, the bigger reason it has a Gravios skull on its back. There's no better monster to come in there, right? I know he was just in Rise with Daimyo, but I definitely think he should be in Wilds, right? Next up is Bazelgeuse, or Bazelgeuse, or however you say it, the big bad bomber. I think him being in the basin would be pretty cool ecology-wise. And I think it'd be pretty cool if, he maybe ate the oil, or maybe he did something with the oil where it would come out of his scales, the blast scales, like the sacs, really what they are. Have the oil drip into there, and maybe make the bombs take more time or something along the lines there. It would be cool. And the final monster in the basin I want to add that on top of this would be a pretty good monster in general, because he should have been in World, really. It's the Elder Dragon, Narkarkos. Let's be honest here. Narkarkos really should have been in World, in the Rotten Vale. Bones, Decay, Carrion, it was its perfect spot. They didn't take it. I'm hoping they take this opportunity with all the oil around them, and possibly all the dead stuff underneath of them. Hence why Shogun would prove to us, maybe Shogun and Narkarkos would be in the same quest line of, we just saw, Shogun with, a fossilized Gravios skull or Gravios bones on its body just come out of the ground. It'd be insanely cool if we could do that, but have Narkarkos, lead up to Narkarkos' fight where we just keep on finding, the scholars keep on finding more and more bones under the ground, and we eventually lead ourselves into either a secluded area or maybe possibly a stage deeper than Agnasios' fight, where it's underground and all these bones are everywhere. It would be really cool to have that. Now we're moving on to the next and final realistic area. Let's be honest, Wyveria isn't realistic. It just has a ton of guardian monsters, and a ton of tempered monsters. It's crowded as is. I don't even know why I'm adding 8 monsters there. But let's move on to the cliffs. First monster in cliffs, Lunagaron. I know for some people it might not feel right to add him, especially since there's not even a game break between the two. Wilds is literally the game after Rise, and on top of that, Lunagaron's the only one of the 3 lords that's there, but I think he would work for the cliffs. A lot of these monsters on this list are just ones that ecologically speaking would just work in the cliffs. They'd be able to traverse the cliffs quite easily. So after Lunagaron, we have Ghost Harag. I think he'd be pretty awesome because of the fact that he is able to make ice. He's also able to break the ice off that he makes into flying shards, and I think that would be a cool way of him traversing. Maybe him freezing, like how Jindahad freezes his hands and feet onto the walls. I think it would be pretty cool to have Ghost Harag freeze his knuckles and stuff like that, and almost rock climb up the side of the cliffs. Next up, Zamtrios. There's enough room for him. There's enough room for his bloated form and everything like that. Even then, if they don't want to add the bloated form, that would be also completely cool. A lot of people would be disappointed, but it'd still be a pretty cool fight. He is one of the 2 monsters, 2 amphibians I want to come back. Now, one of them is a guardian, so doesn't really count, but you get what I mean. But yeah, I think, again, Zamtrios also with Zamites would be awesome to have, another pack monster in the Ice Shard Cliffs. I also think their drill heads would work to, come out of the ground. Speaking of pack monsters in the cliffs, we next up have Geodrome, basically just Ice Velocidrome, and I think he would work there. Same reason why Zamtrios would, and the also same reason why Velocidrome is in Scarlet Forest is because of the fact that the more pack monsters there are, the better, because that's kind of one of their main mechanics is pack monsters and the weather. That's like, they want to have that, right? There's packs of Balahara, there's packs of Hirabami, there's packs of Doshagama. Occasionally you'll see one or more Jarkon together. They really want to go and lean into that pack aspect, and I think adding Geodrome would be good. Next up is Giganox, and along with that, we can add Kezu on here too. On my list, actually, Kezu and Giganox are separated by Lagombi. We'll get to him after these two. So Kezu and Giganox, two amazing monsters that we haven't seen in a game together for a while now. I think it was GU maybe last we saw them together, possibly longer. But those two working together, having the Giggies and I forget what the Welts, Kezu Welts, having them together would be awesome. And on top of this, Kezu being there would also probably give way to Shrouded Ursula. The one where it uses the Kezu as its back or whatever. I think it would work there. I think those two would work together pretty well in the cliffs. And after that, again, you already heard me, Lagombi. He would be having a little trouble traversing the cliffs, just by looking at all the other monsters. Lunagon could freeze his paws and stuff onto the walls. Same with Gossarag. Zamtrios and Zamites could just drill through the ground. Geodrome could just do what Blangonga does and just hop from area to area. Now, Giganox and Kezu could just be in like one little area, like how Nursilla is, where they could just traverse through the caves of it, kind of. And I think Lagombi could possibly do that, but it's a little dangerous there. But you get what I mean. It would be a little harder for Lagombi to traverse through the cliffs, but I think he would be a good addition. And possibly even give us, deviants and stuff like that back again, where we could fight Lagombi with, say, Snow Baron Lagombi and stuff like that. Now, the Azure Cliffs, Elder Dragon, I think he's coming back anyways. We know this for a fact. It's Shigaru Magala. Maybe even adding Chaotic Gore into the area. It would just make the cliffs more of a harsh area to live, which would possibly, maybe the researchers would be confused since, more harsh environments means less monsters, but it would actually produce more monsters. But yeah, that's the cliffs done. And the final area is Wyveria. Now, there are no specific reasons on why these monsters are here. Well, there is one specific reason. Well, I should say two. One, they're all subspecies except the Elder Dragon. And two, they are all monsters I was going to add, but didn't because of one reason or another. Whether that be them being overused, and I'm talking about base monsters. For example, Najarla, Tigrex, Nargacuga, Quetzalcoatl, Barroth, Tetsucabra. Those 7 are all monsters that are on the list, but I have their, subspecies, and those are all monsters I wanted to add to a specific area. Now, Tigrex, I was considering adding to either the basin or the desert. Najarla, I was thinking about adding into the forest. Same thing with Nargacuga. Quetzalcoatl, I was thinking about adding him into the forest, but also his subspecies that I actually have as a guardian would work as Ash Quetzalcoatl should have been in the fire area. Barioth should have been in ice. Sand Barioth, the actual guardian Sand Barioth form, same thing with Ash Quetzalcoatl, would have worked in different locale as well. Same thing with Jade Barioth. He could have worked in both the cliffs and the regular Barioth could have worked in the Windward Plains. Now, Berserk Tetsucabra is the only one that I chose for a specific area that I didn't have on here, right? That I didn't have a specific area for him on the list. That's why I threw him with Wyveria and the Guardians. So first up, we have Guardian Tidal Najarla. As I said before, these are all monsters that I thought were going to be good and could have worked very well in a specific area. I think he could have worked well in the woods, the Scarlet Forest. I think he would have worked perfect in there, but I was already at 7 monsters, and the last one being an Elder, I wasn't going to add him, so he gets to be here anyways. And a lot of these monsters are monsters we have not seen, like at least half this list are monsters we have not seen for a while, or have only specific certain monsters in their group. Like Tidal Najarla is one of the 3 snake wyverns we have. One with being the Remobras, or whatever the cobra flying snake things are, and the other one being Najarla, regular Najarla. But next up, this one is more for it being overused, which is Guardian Brute Tigrex. I think Tigrex is very overused. He's been in World, even having his brute form in World. He's been in Rise, and I think just having him in Wilds as a Guardian would be cool, as a good idea. Guardian Brute Tigrex would be an awesome idea. But next is Guardian Green Nargacuga. I was originally going to add Nargacuga, and possibly maybe even Green Nargacuga into the forest, but I decided against it because, again, same thing with Tigrex. They're kind of overused. He was in World. He was in Rise. He has variant or rare species. Rare species. Lucent Nargacuga and Rise. I think he was just overused and given way too many games in the current day. Obviously, I think it being valid for Rathian and Rathalos to come back, that's kind of valid because they're the flagships, obviously. But for Nargacuga or Tigrex, they're just cool monsters that have been in way too many games. Same thing with, we'll just skip Ash Ketchawatcha for now. Guardian Sandbarioth. Again, Barioth was in World, with even getting a variant or deviant. I forget which one is Frostfang Barioth. Then he was in Rise. He was in Rise. So I think just having him as a backup monster, as a Guardian, Sand Barioth would be cool. Back up to Ketchawatcha, we skipped. Guardian Ash Ketchawatcha would be a cool monster. He could have fit, Ash Ketchawatcha could have fit in the Oil Well Basin, and just regular Ash Ketchawatcha could have fit in the forest, but I thought he was kind of repetitive being there. So I think that's the best place to put him as a Guardian backup monster. Next is Guardian Jade Barioth. Barioth, again, being in World, being in Rise, he could be just a backup monster in Wilds, being a Guardian, and having his Jade form, which he could have fit in the Ice Shard Cliffs, or he could have Jade Barioth fits in the Ice Shard Cliffs, and regular Barioth fits in the desert, or the Windward Plains. He could have very well fit in either area. I just decided it would be too crowded there. Next up is Guardian Berserk Tetsukabura. He's the only one that generally doesn't have an area I was thinking about putting him in. And I thought in my head, even though he would be a construct if he was a Guardian, it'd be cool to have him come back, right? Even if he was just a backup monster as a Guardian. And then finally, Wyveria's Elder Dragon would be Guardian Nergigante. I was thinking about putting Guardian Ruiner Nergigante, but Ruiner, I believe, is a variant, which we don't want. We want them to be just subspecies or regulars. And since Elder Dragons don't have subspecies, they only have variants, which I think is only Ruiner Nergigante. We're just going to put Guardian Nergigante there, as he would be probably one of the most requested monsters to come back. He'd probably be maybe something like Guardian Dashagama, where he doesn't actually he doesn't have any element, so he would just be a brute force fight mainly, a very difficult one, stronger obviously than Guardian Doshaguma, being a monster where his guardian form doesn't actually have an element would be cool, right? And finally, we're on to our special 3 guests. These are monsters that are really large elder dragons that would really fit into Wilds in story or some other way like that. The first one is Dalamador, or Shah Dalamador, one of the other, probably most likely Dalamador. One, I think he would be really awesome to come back. 2, I think the design for Wilds is kind of Serpentine-like, meaning we could possibly maybe get Dalamador. Next up is Lao Shenlong. Him being just a really large dragon, like a really large elder dragon, that would be, have a very similar story as to why he's running away from something again. Hint, 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 the last 3. Basically, he'd be running away from the last guest, or guests, I should say. But it would almost redo Lao Shenlong's story, where it's being chased out by a very, very large predator, and basically he would destroy stuff. We'd have to kill him, or repel him at least, and we'd find out the source of what's been following him or attacking him, which would lead me on to my next monster, or monsters, the Fatalises. I think Crimson, White, and regular Fatalis, how I was kind of hinting at White Fatalis at the beginning of the video, I think White Fatalis could possibly come back by himself, but I highly doubt it, because if Crimson or White Fatalis are in a game, regular Fatalis, and then the other variant / subspecies is also going to be there, meaning if White Fatalis is there, they're most likely to have regular Fatalis and his Crimson form. But I think I would rather them bring back all 3 than just bringing back regular Fatalis again, like they did in Iceborne. But I think, maybe leading up to it, Fatalis maybe being a little easier than he was in Iceborne, and then having Crimson being a little harder, maybe being on par with Iceborne Fatalis, and then White Fatalis being the hardest monster we fight in Wilds, and that would be a pretty cool end to Wilds itself. It's kind of weird with this, because I'm doing this excluding title updates. But if the title updates were part of it, I would assume the 3 Fatalises, and then maybe the special guests would all be title updates, right? But basically, that is the 40 monsters I would like to return to Wilds. Obviously, I'm hoping they have new monsters, but if they don't, that is completely fine. If they just bring back returning monsters, I think it would be pretty awesome if they brought back all 40 of these guys. Now, adding new subspecies, adding new variants, deviants, stuff like that, depending on if we get Master Rank or G Rank, I think it would be really cool to just bring back these 40 monsters, technically 45 monsters, into the game, into Wilds. I think they'd all make great additions. This is, of course, only what I think. You may think a completely different way and may have a completely different idea on who should come back. Let me know in the comments who you would like to personally come back. And if you want, at least provide some reasoning, right? Because if you just say Monoblos, then I'm just going to think, I might just think, hey, you just want Monoblos back because you're just hearing everybody else want Monoblos back. While I gave specific good reasoning on why I wanted him to come back. And that's another thing. Add on to what I want, right? If you guys want, Kazu coming back, tell me why. I know that's probably not one you want coming back, but if you want, Gosrag coming back, tell me why you think he would be a good fit in Ashard Cliffs. Or, maybe Basarios in the Basin, or Who knows? Astalos in the Scarlet Forests, or Glavenus in the Windward Plains. I think these are all valid things that I want to return. I would love to see and hear your ideas. But that is it. That is all for today. I'll see you guys in the next one.